requested a trade from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The bottom line is that we're playing a significant game, and he didn't do a good enough job of communicating.
Breaking news, Antonio Brown is a Raider.
First day as a Raider, baby. Woo!
It's time for him to be all in or all out.
Antonio Brown has been released.
31-year-old wide receiver is signed with the Patriots.
His stint with the Patriots lasted 11 days.
I think I owe the whole NFL apology and my past behavior.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Thank you so much for being with us. He's Stephen A. Smith. He's Max Kellerman. I'm Molly Karam Rose. And look who's slumming with us today. Louis Riddick of Monday Night Football. Louis, so good to see you. Guys, I got some news regarding Antonio Brown. Could he be back in the NFL? Let's get it. League sources told our Adam Schefter that the Seahawks are among teams expressing interest in Antonio Brown, with Brown's suspension eligible to end after Week 8. The Seahawks are positioned to make a push to sign him, though they are not alone. League sources telling ESPN both of Seattle's quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Geno Smith, are friends with Brown, worked out with him during the offseason, and have remained in touch with him about the idea of potentially joining Seattle. Max.
Yeah.
Here's the million-dollar question, actually multi-million-dollar question. Would AB help or hurt Seattle?
He would help them for as long as he was there. I don't know how long that lasts. He's given us no indication he will last. That's all like, well, if I were in his position, I know now would be the time to buckle down. But none of his behavior tells us he would last. But while he was there, look, you called it a multi-million-dollar question. I don't know, Molly. I don't know what he signs for. He's cost himself so many tens of millions of dollars.
True.
You know, you're going to get him on a discount, on a huge discount, even if there are multiple suitors, which there will be. And why will there be? He did. He played one game for the Patriots last year. His stint with New England lasted 11 days after he outstayed his welcome and really got himself kind of thrown off the Raiders before he ever played a game for them at all, and threw everyone under the bus on the way. But in that one game for the Patriots, he was targeted 8 times. He wound up catching 3 first downs and a touchdown. Just walked on to the Patriots and caught a touchdown. Look, if you said who do I really believe is the best wideout in football, I'd say Odell Beckham Jr. If you want to say, well, who could you prove really everything in the locker room, on the field, with the size, checks every box, I'd say Julio Jones. But if you just want to say who's been the most productive wideout in football when he's on the field, since Jerry Rice, maybe, it's really Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and Antonio Brown in terms of production. It's through the roof. So I don't know how long he lasts, but while he is on the team, he will help them. That's why they want him. That's why multiple teams want him, because the evidence says he's the best in the game.
I disagree. I think he would hurt the Seattle Seahawks. He's all world. He's a Hall of Fame talent. There's no reason to debate that. We all know how surreal Antonio Brown is. Here's the problem. The Seattle Seahawks are undefeated. We had the great Russell Wilson on this show last week. Who was the number 1 player he was raving about, Max Kellerman?
Metcalf?
DK Metcalf. That's the face. That's the face of this franchise moving forward outside of Russell Wilson. He is the guy that's going to be a primary target. What's one of the things that could easily turn Antonio Brown into the petulant individual that he's known to be?
Let him get 5 targets a game.
That's the fact that he's not the priority, that he's treated like Odell Beckham Jr. is being treated in Cleveland right now, for crying out loud, where he's getting 4 or 5 targets a game. Antonio Brown would lose his mind. I'm not saying that Antonio Brown doesn't deserve to be back in the NFL, that he doesn't deserve another chance. This is the land of second chances, third chances. This is America. I get all of that. And I'm not sitting up here saying Antonio Brown should not be a part of the NFL again. My personal preference is that he goes someplace like Baltimore. Obviously, you're familiar with the AFC North. You'd be highly motivated to really take a dig at your former team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. You might end up going against the Raiders, another team you might want to take a dig at, even though you were the one at fault, especially with the Raiders, okay? All of those things may be true. But because they don't have some all-world elite, bona fide number 1 target for Lamar Jackson, I would say that would be an ideal place. In Seattle, you got Russell Wilson, you got DK Metcalf, you have David Moore, you have Tyler Lockett, you've got Greg Olsen, you've got a multitude of targets, and their success is predicated on team ball. particularly on the offensive side of the ball. They're the number 1 offense in the NFL. They're the number 4 passing attack. They're led by a leading MVP candidate in Russell Wilson, who is known for just as much of his playing ability as being a model citizen,
No question.
a leader, somebody that toes the company line and does what's in the best interest of the collective whole as opposed to himself. To have all of that in place and then to turn around and instead look at that, no. You go for Odell Beckham Jr. You try to trade for that man. That's somebody that you bring to Seattle to join that crew. Not a guy like Antonio Brown who's not getting his money. Not only is he not getting his money, but then he'd be a secondary
Odell,
option.
you got to give stuff up for.
I
Lewis.
agree. I know that.
Antonio
I know
Brown
that.
just signed for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. But I'm talking about what's going to work for the team.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't even need a receiver.
I'm not talking finances. I know financially, obviously, Antonio Brown is in no position. He has no leverage, so that's where you go. But no, I'm not bringing him to Seattle.
Yeah, I'm a big chemistry guy, man. And there's no question that Seattle right now, their chemistry is exactly how you want it on the offensive side of the ball. It's exactly where you want. Russell has a great rapport with DK. Russell has a great rapport with Tyler Lockett. You know that Chris Carson is a heck of a runner. From a play calling perspective, they're in a nice groove as far as mixing run and pass, and they are allowing Russell to really flourish, meaning that they're not keeping him in a box. They're allowing him to be the creative force that he is. And then if you bring someone in who right now, look, his resume is so pristine as far as his ability to produce on the football field and produce in all environments, meaning first down, second down, third down, deep passing game, intermediate passing game, run after the catch. I mean, that's why Antonio Brown's going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver. But the question is, and as you guys have both alluded to, and Stephen A., who you particularly alluded, I mean, what is he going to do to the football team? How is he going to be when he sees that, this is really about Russ, DK, Tyler Lockett, Pete Carroll, the positive psychology, energy that they really, infuse into that football team. What's going to happen if he doesn't feel as though he is an integral part of that? If he isn't like option A all the time? You just don't know. But all you can do is go off of history. And if I'm a general manager, team president, head coach, offensive coordinator, if I'm getting that whole group around right now around the table and actually not around the table, on a Zoom call and talking about that, I'm sitting there going, is this really worth it? We understand what he would bring to us, particularly in an area maybe where they have struggled a little bit, which is on third down. He could be the thing that really takes this offense and just pushes it over the top and says,
Wait a
give
second.
the MVP to Russell.
Lewis.
We're going to book our spot right now in the NFC Championship game, and here we are. But it's the negative possibility that would keep me from doing it.
Hold on, timeout. Seahawks wide receivers lead the NFL in touchdowns. They're second in yards per reception. Why are we even talking about adding to their offense when their defense is the real issue for Seattle? When we talk about Seattle getting to the Super Bowl, we're not worried about the offense. We're worried about the defense.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because you have one of the biggest impact players in the history of the NFL, really, at his position, who's available for peanuts. That's why. Of course, they'd prefer that he was a defensive player. If there was an Antonio Brown-level defensive player who came with all the warts that Antonio comes with, all the baggage, they'd be thrilled. But that's not what's available. What's available is this. And then the question becomes, do you want it, yes or no? Stephen A., Lewis, I'm with you about the chemistry. It is a real concern. And for a long time, I was thinking, no, I don't think Antonio Brown works on this team or that team or that team. And Seattle has these great receivers and they have chemistry. And then I put myself in the front office's position, in fact, or Russell Wilson's position even, and think, wait, I can add Antonio Brown to this? Guys, the investment's not going to be such that they're not going to be able to get rid of him if he's a real problem. Who wouldn't really take a flyer on this guy?
Here's the problem with your argument, Max. You're acting like we're saying, you know what? Don't take a chance on Odell Beckham Jr. because he's not worth the risk. We know that he's not a big risk because he has no leverage. We're just answering the question, is this good for Seattle? And what I'm saying, right now, he stands to jeopardize that.
Well,
and so when you're 5-0 and you're a top-ranked offense in the NFL and you got the fourth-ranked passing attack and chemistry, as Louis Riddick said, that's a big, big deal. If you're worried about him compromising the chemistry, why bother? Now, you can sit up there and say, because it's low risk, because you ain't got to pay any money. It's not about, but if it's not about the money, if you veer away from the money, Is that something that you want to bring into the equation?
No, if he really is a problem, they'll get rid of him.
I know that.
Like, he's not going to be the kind of. So if it's like if you lose a game you should have won because Antonio Brown's on your team, and that's actually hard to imagine with that team, then you would get rid of him. I'm thinking about, like, when you say if it was Odell, that would be one thing. Yeah, sure. But you'd have to move mountains to get him. Antonio Brown on a flyer, guys? Like, we could say whatever we want about chemistry. Happened on the Raiders. He was out of there before they played a game. What happened on the Patriots? He contributed to a win. Like the off-the-field stuff, he imploded, and that may happen again. That's why I said as long as he's there, he's going to help you on the field.
But he did it in the offseason with Pittsburgh. He did it, even though he did some things during the season, showing up the late and all of this other stuff. He did it before the season with the Raiders, particularly his disrespect
probably do it again.
towards Mayock, right?
You don't know, a year's passed.
In New England, he was told, shut up.
Yeah.
And what does he do? He calls out the owner. The owner of the New England Patriots. Really? You understand? I mean, really? You let
Gruden under the bus.
Bill Belichick, your secret